All right, we're recording. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Destination Aha. And I am Drew Gerber. I'm the CEO of Wasabi Publicity, and I have my business partner, Michelle Tennant Nicholson. She's our Chief Creative Officer at Wasabi Publicity. And we just want to really welcome you to this BLAB. Today, we're going to talk about how to leverage your book or PR. Now, the reason that we're actually doing this BLAB is because we recently did a survey with over 250 journalists to find out what they really want. Because we, no matter what we do, whether it's Wasabi Publicity or Pitch Rate or Online Press Kit 247, all of it is about really making a difference. And we really believe that the way to change the world is to change what people are talking about. And the fastest way to do that is really with PR. So we really look to see what are those tools that we could give people to actually help them really make the difference they want, to change what people are talking about by having people talk about them. So we really went to work finding out what the media really wants, what they're looking for these days. I mean, I love that Michelle says she's seen PR transition from typewriter to Twitter.
It's true. It shows my age, but you know.
Now, if you don't know what a typewriter is, that's fine. You're still welcome. But why we did this survey, and if you haven't seen the survey, you can go to wasabipublicity.com and you can pick up this survey. And really, we found some really interesting things. And one of the things that we found out was that only about 8% of the journalists actually use a book when they're evaluating the sources and the experts are going to use. And I don't know about for you, Michelle, but that was a complete shock for me.
That was a shock for me because I just, I mean, for years, the default has been that, to be an expert, you need a book, and that's just not the case anymore.
It's not. But one of the things why I want to have this BLAB is if you read through that survey and you see that, the journalists are not using it as a way to evaluate their experts, there is a very powerful way to still leverage a book. And it's still an important piece of a PR campaign. And we really want to talk about, okay, good, how do you leverage a book if you've written a book to really garner PR? Now, also, I'd like, if you haven't written a book, I think this is a great way for you to kind of suss out, should I write a book? Is it really worth the investment? When you know that, okay, this is how you really can use it to leverage PR. Now, normally, Michelle is in the trenches, dialing and smiling with the journalist, booking interviews for our clients, but I kind of dragged her out of the trenches so that we can have a chat with her. She really has got a beat on what journalists want and really how to leverage a book. And I thought it would be useful if Michelle kind of walked through, okay, good, how are we using our clients' books to really get PR? So, Michelle, let's just jump right in. Let's just start blabbing.
Well,
this is our first BLAB together.
I know. Here's the thing, you should have a book if you want a book. That's really,
I think absolutely.
Yeah, and you're still a valuable source to the media if you don't have a book. That's really what the news is. And I was pulled out of the trenches today. I literally just finished an email with CNN. So I'm cooking up some really great stuff for April. So the other mark of a publicist, for those of you who are evaluating your PR, is, what are the recent relationships, right? So the one thing to do about leveraging your book with those media contacts that you have, whether it's your direct relationships or your publicist relationships, there's some people on the call that are doing it themselves. Other people are hiring other people to do it. In fact, let me just address that for a second. Like, when do you need a publicist? Because people are like, well, if I have a book, then I need a publicist. You really need a publicist if you can't answer your own phone. That's really the big takeaway on that. Now, why do you need to answer your phone? Well, when you pitch your book and make the media care about your book by sending the emails today or mail, not too many people do mail as a first meet and greet though anymore. But I want to say that when they call you, the most important thing is that you're available to take their call and interact with them. That's probably the most frustrating thing for journalists because they're working in an immediate news cycle. So the other thing is you have to answer the question for the media, why should they care about your book, and why should they care now? So if you've got a book that's coming out soon, then be watching seasonal and breaking news. That's the biggest thing.
Well, I think I'm glad you bring those up, because whenever I'm talking to people when they're looking to hire a publicist, is what are the two questions? And I always tell them there's two questions we always have to answer for the journalist, and that is, why should the media care about what you have to say, and why should they care now? And that's really where a book comes in, because if you're publishing a book, that really answers that second question.
Right. Well, yeah, and so then how does your book, one of the things that I was noticing, well, we have a few case studies that I want to talk about. Let's talk about lovely Doctors Gay and Katie Hendricks. And you may know them because they do a lot of books on conscious loving. That's really their term, conscious loving. They teach people how to be in relationship, in marriages, in a conscious, mindful way, right? Are you communicating well? Are you choosing well inside your marriage? Well, one of the things is, their recent book was Conscious Loving Ever After. So how do you have love in the second half of life as juicy or even juicier than the first half of life? And how do you go about doing that? Well, one piece they had in there was around fear melters. Now, fear melting inside a marriage relationship, a spousal relationship, looks like an individual, a personalized scenario. But we tied it into what's happening in the breaking news today about, there's a lot of fear going on, a lot of fear with, people randomly shooting other people. There's a lot of fear happening with war on the global scale. There's even fear in our political process. And so when we pitched Spirituality and Health magazine, they really loved that section of their book on fear melting. So that's and they did a whole feature in their magazine, which is just, for getting the word out about your book. To get a feature inside a glossy national magazine is just stellar, right? So that's one way to look at, well, we may actually have content inside the book that's more of a one-on-one relationship, like me and my husband. But then how does this relate to a macro conversation inside our society, maybe called war, politics, getting along with countries and communities? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So should I keep going on why the media should care now?
Well, I think, yeah, I'd like to. So it's really, for me, I think that in working with the clients is I can't stress enough that having a book come out is really the reason to contact the media. So that's
Yes.
really where I think a book comes into play is it's really, when we work with the clients, we generally do a 3 to 4 month campaign, because that's really when you can really get the media to take notice, because you have something that's newsworthy. And that is that you're right, that you're actually launching a book. So I think that's really, really, really important to underscore. If you are going to do a book and leverage a book, you really want to start well in advance of the launching the book to really leverage it, because it's all about the time that it comes out. That's when it's the most valuable.
Yeah, and it's, the thing about timing is always, it's always on the media's timeline. So, we can work months in advance, and then the media is still going to choose what's important to them. We have another example that I want to talk about, and it's a guy named Don Goey. And one of the things that he did was, well, let's get to Don Goey in just a second. If you've got something about stress, you're going to really want to hear about him. But the thing about timing, what's better is that one campaign we did, oh my God, the one about how children see God. And that was a really good one. Now, Monica Parker wrote a book about how children interpret and communicate. It's like, what do they say about God? It was hilarious. I actually think I have the book right here. So this little book, oh my God, right? How Children See God. And it's a very visual book. So then how do you actually get that in front of the media? Well, the other thing is that the holidays were upon us. So, with a book that you want to get in front of the media, especially around a very spiritual topic, Ideally, you'd want to start this in May or June. That's when the magazines really start to cover Thanksgiving and Christmas. In fact, in today's news, you know, it's St. Patty's Day. I've got my green on. Today, it's St. Patrick's Day. It's March. And even some of the corporate clients I saw on headline news this morning, Nike's got the shoes, like Back to the Future shoes, where they have automatic shoelaces. And they're getting their PR out now for Christmas. Good job, Nike. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's March is. So now they got all kinds of buzz on the broadcast medium, which then will attract all of the magazines. The magazines will be like, oh yeah, I heard about that, right? They'll be ready to then feature them for their holiday issues. So we didn't start. Monica had us do a last minute push for Christmas, and we scored a really big deal with CNN Health and CNN for Christmas Eve. So that was, we told her right up, like, oh, we're really starting late, but we'll so it's possible to get those scores late, but ideally you want to start early. So timing is also, you want to time it when your book's actually available and for sale.
Yeah. So that's a good point. So really, if you're going to be using PR to really and want to leverage your book for PR, you really want to start at least 6 to 8 months before the launch of your book. And that's really when Michelle said you're going to be pitching long lead magazines. And then when probably 6 weeks out is when you'll be pitching short lead, your broadcast, your radio, your television, and your short lead print.
Yes. So let me go back to Don Goey, right? So he was his book dealt with stress and how the brain deals with stress. And here's some interesting facts from our study, which, by the way, you can get the study over at wasabipublicity.com for free. It's called The State of the Media. You just sign in, you get that if you want that. But here's the thing is that book authorship ranked 9 out of 11 selectable factors. So the top 3 factors were being a recognized expert in your field, having original research to back up your whatever claims you're making about your industry, and then having well-developed media materials. So those are the top 3 over the book, right? So let's just use Don Goey as an example. So he had a book called Mystic Cool. And one of the things a lot of people worry about if they don't have a PhD, or can the media still use them? Now, it's true, if you have a PhD, the media loves that. That's true. And you should definitely leverage that. But what if you don't? Like Don didn't. But Don had an amazing, he had amazing affiliations with Stanford University and so forth. So what we did is we established him as a recognized expert in his field. And we talked about why he was able to write this book. And he also had research that he was citing. And we also developed fabulous online press kits and got him a media portfolio so that, you know, when the Today Show finally called him, he had all kinds of local TV interviews. He was actually in Outside Magazine. But let's talk about how we got Outside Magazine, because when we got Outside Magazine, man, it skyrocketed his sales. And one of the things that he was doing was we zeroed in on using just one little word, right? Rather than just being a stress expert, he was a stress elimination expert. And we tied around, at the time, I remember Montel Williams was doing something, and we was doing something on 9/11. And so we had Don interviewed about how to eliminate stress around traumatic events like 9/11. And he had only a very short time to actually communicate this thing that he does with his hand about relieving stress. So that little interview we shared with a freelancer who works for Outside Magazine, and she scored with her editor the ability to work with Don in a series of sessions to learn how to use these techniques to eliminate stress, which she then reported in Outside Magazine. And so, you know, the work that he did in his interviews to really soundbite himself effectively, and then just really pull out one exercise that dealt with his hand, that then launched something that was really clear for people inside, for a freelancer to get her teeth around, like, oh, I can really then apply this to a feature article I'm writing for Outside Magazine. So that's, you know, just some of the things that happened. His ranking shot to over 6,000. So he became #1 in his category. So his ranking on Amazon, Mystic Cool became one of the #1 book in his category, and he saw a dramatic increase in sales. So I just really think that that's fascinating. So if you've got your book, the thing to ask yourself is, are you doing those top 3 things? Are you communicating? You're a recognized expert. Do you have original research that you can talk about? Media love original research. And then do you have well-developed media materials? That means, do you have all your ducks in a row? The online press kit, we do press kit 247, and you can do your own online press kit. Make sure that you have, all your information, your bios, your photos, your questions to ask, your articles, all in one place, past media coverage, all in one place for the media to see. Over to you.
I was going to say, you could tell Michelle's a publicist.
I'm done. Yeah, I'm like, okay.
No.
Right? So blah, 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 blah.
So
you know what I mean?
Do you guys have any questions? Huh? Well, it did make sense. It did make sense. If you guys have any questions, though, you can always send us messages over there. We're reading those. So if you have any questions about this. So that was a lot.
Sound issues. If you're having a sound issue, don't fret. We'll replay it. It's probably your computer.
It's all good. Life is good. Life is good. Yeah, especially doing PR. So I think then, so that's all really good information. So let's kind of like break it down. So if you do have a book and you have, you're going to be launching it. Let's walk through, Michelle, like exactly what you do for our clients, step by step, so people can really, if they're doing PR for themselves, they know, okay, good, you do step 1, step 2, step 3, in really what we do to land our clients' PR coverage.
Step 1 is get all your media materials together. Okay, yeah. That includes a digital version of your book. My goodness, right? Everybody's like, I don't want, and I know that if you're working with a publisher, they have certain parameters around the digital distribution of your book. You do want to honor those, and a lot of people use NetGalley. That's fine. Just make sure that you have something digital for last minute, because if a radio producer wants you overnight, they just want to quickly skim your book. They don't want a hard copy, save a tree. You know what I mean? But get all together. So you want your bios, your photos, you want, not every media person wants questions to ask, but they'll always ask you for talking points. So just start to think about, well, what would you like to be asked about your book and so forth. Then the second thing is hold
on one second. So someone asked a question. So hold on one second. So that was just really great. Can you share a URL example, which Hannah, who is actually managing the questions for us, just gave the example of, it's in the chat box, so you can actually see that. But you can also go to Search Press Kits. That's searchpresskits.com, and you can see some really great examples of press kits. Most of them are the press kits that we've written, but not all of them. They're all press kits that use our technology. Onlinepresskit247.com. That's onlinepresskit247.com. But if you go to search, Hannah put that up too. You can use that long link. Searchpresskits.com also will be there. And if you click on that, you can actually.
Use Hannah's because mine doesn't work. I'm like, I need to just stick with talking because I just sent a link that doesn't work.
Hold on.
Anyway, so search Presskits and Hannah's.
Okay.
Too.
You're welcome.
But the thing about the Hendrix one is the example that I use in spirituality and health. So you can actually see the press kit that I use to score spirituality and health. And by the way, they also were featured in the Wall Street Journal as a couple in the bonds column around should you or should you not have performance reviews in your marriage. They don't have performance reviews, but they have regular chats. It's sort of like a performance review. But anyway, that went viral in September, which then led to Good Morning America and other things. So you can actually see the actual online press kit that we use there.
Yeah, so it's great. So I think that's really great because I think when you go to the press kits and see them, it's a really great example of what we're talking about because that really is a great example of all of your ducks in a row and then all of your media material that the media is going to need. Everything's right there at their fingertips. You know, one of the reasons that we're so successful is because we know who we serve, and I actually tell the clients this, who we serve is the media. Even though you're paying us, we really serve the media because they know at the end of the day, that's going to mean that they're going to get the results they're looking for, the coverage they're looking for. So, okay, great. So first thing we do is get all of the materials done, the bios and all this stuff, and you can see all the examples. Okay, good. What's the next step?
Yeah, so just quickly, as we wrap up, the second two things that you want to do is forget about your book and really look at today's news. What's happening in today's news, what's happening in the seasonal news too. Not only breaking news, like this week we've really been dealing with the presidential election, right? But then there's also St. Patrick's Day. There's also things coming up. Taxes are next month, and then spring, and then all the graduates are going to be graduating, and then we're all getting our bodies ready for a hot summer beach. Okay, so those are the things that are on people's minds. They don't care about your book. I'm sorry. So number two is put your book aside and think about what's happening in the macro conversations in our society today. Then the third thing is to link them together. So once you figure out these are the top three things that I can talk about in our society, then pull content from your book to then highlight, because the media, what they care about is telling the story about these breaking and seasonal news items. And then if you help them loop in what your book says about what they're covering, boom, you have media coverage. So one is media materials, two is set that aside and just research breaking and seasonal news, and the third piece is just link them together.
Yeah, that's really great. Hannah, we know we're at 20 minutes and we said we'd be at 20 minutes. We're going to go just a bit over with this because
we're at 25 minutes.
We're at 25 minutes. All I can say is you just really can't shut a publicist up. You really, here's my advice to you. If you ever are working with a publicist and you've got a call scheduled for 30 minutes, just go ahead and schedule an hour just to be safe. Less is more. So anyway, so great. So those are really great. So those are the three key things really is get your ducks in a row, forget about your book, and then how does your book tie into really what's happening on a more macro level, whether it be seasonal or breaking news.
That's it. And then you're going to have media coverage. I want you guys to all tweet and connect with us when you get your media coverage. I want to hear about all of it.
So it sounds like there's other conversations to be had here. So what we're going to be doing is and the next time we'll actually schedule more time for this, obviously. But one of the things we probably should do is really talk about, I think it would be good to drill into what really does go into an online press kit, what really are the materials. And then one of the things, Michelle, we should set up another BLAB about, which I think would be really great, is how you actually pitch the media. Because, you know, we've got to, oh, your camera went, poor internet signal. So really how you pitch the media, because we've got a particular formula that we've used, that we've developed over the 12 years of being in business, and I think would be really great to share with you all. So just keep a heads up for that. If you want to receive emails about our next BLAB and everything, you can go to pitchrate.com. If you don't know about it, it's the free service where we connect experts and journalists together for free. And if you're on that list and you're part of that community, we send out BLABs about it. Also, you can go to wasabipublicity.com, do the survey, and you'll be on the list, and we'll let you know about the other survey. And then we will let you know when we'll schedule those deeper conversations. So that's it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We appreciate it. Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks. Happy St. Patty's Day.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks.